Questioning Everything with Adam W.
Episode 13.
No.
How does this relate to farming? I'm kidding.
I've been dreaming of farming.
Yeah. So tonight's subject is dreams. Welcome everybody to the Questioning Everything podcast. I'm your host, Adam W., and with me tonight is Danny Hush Jordão.
Thank you.
We are talking about, like I said, dreams. Now, dreams, there's two different sub-branches that are obvious. One is the thing that happens at night when you sleep, and one is some kind of an aspiration, right? I mean, those might blur on some level, but generally speaking, aspirations are something that is a potential, and dreams are something that literally has happened to you and have been recorded by your subconscious. So they are a phenomenal, tangible thing, whereas aspirations are something that you want to make tangible. Right? But I mean, aside from that, there is a bleed over because quite often people's aspirations and their physical dreams there's an overlap.
Yeah.
You're going to dream about things that you aspire towards, for sure. But you also dream about things that you definitely don't aspire towards.
Yeah. But I call those collage dreams, where it's just like there's no rhyme or reason to the narrative, and it's just like you're here, you're awake.
And that might actually just be dreams.
Yeah.
Because the collage dream is one of the theories for what is a dream, or at least, when we talk about a dream as a waking person, when the person who calls himself Adam talks about the dream, then it's actually the darndest best recollection that the person who calls himself Adam, has. And there's a lot of barriers between what actually occurred in that dream and what the person who calls himself Adam, are even capable of remembering. And there's a bunch of different faculties for it to go through, but yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Did you take a good look at that time crystal thing that I sent you? That video?
No, I do remember looking at it, but I don't remember getting too deep.
Yeah, me too. That's why I was asking. I was like, oh, maybe you got a better handle of it than I did, because I was going to bring that up. I'm like, maybe that's kind of like something to do with the consciousness. Because if you're feeling like time and consciousness are kind of, interwoven or whatever, then maybe there's something about these time crystallizations or crystals that might be related to consciousness and how memories are saved or whatever.
Or just the principal structure of single dimensional structure. Or single dimensional structures. Whatever the single dimensional structures are, there's probably going to be some analogous structure, something out there. And time crystals, because they are based on time crystals seems like a good place to look. Absolutely. Yeah. Even insofar as trying to figure out what kind of a structure could exist, and how the emergent properties that come from the superstructures actually come, right? Yeah. It's one of the interesting phenomena is when you have something that's emergent, it's so peculiar that would you even be able to predict that would ever emerge if it hadn't?
Right.
And because it's emergent and it's greater than the sum of its parts, there's every reason to believe that you wouldn't even be able to predict it. Because it's so peculiar. But no, it seems pretty cool. And they're like, even insofar as structure goes, when I'm talking about consciousness, dreams is actually a really good thing to look at, because dreams are a reconstruction of some form of external stimuli for a lot of it, right? So we experience stuff, and what you dream is more or less exclusively a product of your human experience, or it's like a computer being programmed. If you've never been exposed to something, or if you're simply not aware of it, you're not going to dream about it.
Yeah.
The importance or prevalence of a thing also increases the likelihood that you're going to dream of it, right? Say, where like boys dream violent things and girls dream emotional things. Not always, but just as more of a.
That sounds like more like conjecture than it is about.
No, there is data.
Is there?
Absolutely, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Probably like on the level of questionnaire of what do you dream about, comparing people's gender to their sex, to their purported dreams. I know as a male, I can't speak for anybody else, but I know I have plenty of like physically active dreams where I'm like, it's like not necessarily zombie apocalypse, but the world is definitely turned to hell and I'm trying to survive.
Wow.
And I've got like 2 or 3 people to look after, and it's a matter of like physical like caveman shit at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of does fall in line with that dream I had a few weeks ago where I woke up in sleep paralysis and whatever. Right. Like I was running around like this whatever mall complex thing, and I threw a guy off of a ledge and was running away from these weird chicks, and I thought there was alien kind of vibes around. I was just
Watchers.
Like, yeah,
the Watchers were present.
Yeah, and I was like, that was not. Well, it is kind of fun. Like after, like you get past the natural like panic that sets in and whatever, just like. But I was like, looking back, I was like, I'm glad I had an experience versus just not. Like, I think it's going to sleep and having some kind of a dream or something is a lot more satisfying than just out for like 6 to 8 hours and then okay, back online.
Well, interestingly enough, even if a person goes long periods of time without remembering a dream, they still dream. Yeah. Because again, people have been tested where they purport not to dream, and they still have all the evidence, the signs from brain scanning and stuff of REM and of the 2 hours of dream sequencing, but they're not remembering it, and that's what brings it back to that collage theory.
Yeah.
Because there's kind of like 2 theories. One, and you could call it the collage theory versus the onion skin theory. Now, I'm not sure if you should even consider it to be a versus, or maybe that there's different applications for different ideas and the different ideas apply differently. But the onion skin theory is the same sort of onion skin theories I normally have insofar as meditation or experiences that are strange, actually usually drug experiences quite often in a person's life, where they'll experience states of consciousness that are literally inaccessible after, and it's because we're built kind of like an onion skin, right?
Yeah.
And it's very similar with our levels of subconscious, just in general, right? And so the 2 ideas then are: is there any conscious interplay whatsoever, which science has proven that there's like lucid dreaming is real and there's consciousness involved. Absolutely. On some level, sometimes. But is it like, as far as remembering your dream, the memory of the dream is the evidence of the dream. Is the memory of the dream cohesive because the dream was cohesive and the cohesion part of our brain was used during the dreaming process? Or is it cohesive because when we start to wake up, this collage, which a lot of dream researchers believe that it literally is constantly just a collage state. Dreaming is a non-linear, non-connected collage of ideas that if you remember your dream, quote unquote, that's actually an assembly process after you have begun to become more conscious again as you're waking up. There's this where you have to make sense of everything. I mean, there's like and the brain at that point forms the story, essentially, that kind of existed in the collage form, but because the collage form is a bigger, less linear sort of perspective state, the collage form doesn't necessarily ever have to collapse into a sensible, linear, complete thought, logical thought, complete sentence part of our brain type experience. It can just be divided. But then when we, like I said, when we come back into our cognition, suddenly then it's parsed into something that makes sense.
Yeah.
And we that's what we remember. We remember the part that makes sense. And if there's not enough cognitive connection between the parts of that dream state that can make any kind of a sensible story, then it just stays a collage, and we remember bits and pieces, quote unquote. But the reason that we don't remember the full picture as it was is because there really wasn't.
Yeah,
it really was just these kind of bits and pieces mushed together. Where, certain things are repeated, and then something over here is considered for a while, and then, when you come out, you're like, oh, I was dreaming that I was at work talking to my boss. Meanwhile, you had like this repetitive moment at one point that was work related, and then something boss related. But once it gets into your consciousness, if you're going to make any sense of it, then it's just like anything else, right? You end up interpreting things in a way that makes sense to you, right?
Yeah. What's your intuition on maybe thinking on the multiple worlds theory, right? Like, I think that's the way to say it. So like, I really love Sean Carroll. I think that's his name. He's really good at explaining science in a palatable, if that's even the right word, manner for the lay person, right? Like, and I keep listening to him because not only is he very clear and well spoken, but he is like an attractive human being. Like, you want to look at him, you want to listen to him, and he invites you in, right?
Okay.
And which helps me personally, like, receive information. And he said something just really interesting that kind of made the multiple worlds theory kind of make sense. He's like, so every time you come to a decision, right? You've got a couple of options in front of you. And after you make a decision, you can then look back at the other paths you could have taken, and whether or not that creates the split, like, okay, you're experiencing goes down one path. Does that mean all of those other variations, all those other paths were taken by you as well, but in their own dimension, if you would, but it's all within the same reality. What he said, that what I really liked, was because everything is so out of phase with each other that they won't interact. It'll be the same thing as when sound is out of phase. It completely negates that tone or whatever, because you've got the two opposing waves or whatever. So he was explaining, like, that's kind of like how multiple worlds theories works. Like, yes, they very might well be like all of those paths were taken by you, but only you experienced the one decision or whatever. And because all of those other paths that you also took are so out of phase that it's like, well, those versions of you experience those decisions too, kind of thing. But you're not any one of them. You're just the one version, right? And so, like, I'm trying to build that up, because like maybe that has something to do with collage dreams, where like you had a similar experience, but the way that it played out in your dream wasn't exactly how you experienced it in your timeline or whatever. But then also there's like those weird deja vu moments where it's not like deja vu exactly, like in the Matrix, where you see something happen again. The one that I feel the most is like when I meet someone new and I'm like, I think I met you before. You know,
We're starting to pile some stuff on that has to be unpacked because
yeah.
now
Sorry,
we're going from many worlds theory and that are two distinctly things to deal with.
Yeah.
I don't buy the many worlds theory at all. I don't.
No.
I think it's fun, right?
Yeah.
And there is one element to just the probable intuition thing, and that's that everything that can happen will happen at some point, right? And so to say that there's a multiple worlds theory where every decision that you make, branches off a different world and all that sort of stuff, it allows for the universe to complete every possible permutation. And I think that that's what it's one of the universe's goals. If it had a goal, is to just do all the things.
Yeah.
Right? So anything that can happen will happen. That's rule number one. It's going to happen. I don't think that there's multiple worlds at all. I think that there's one world. I think that there's one universe. And by one world, I mean like that we have one.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's multiple worlds. But
yeah.
I don't believe
There's one reality.
Yeah, I don't believe
less.
that. Yes, exactly. I believe that there's a potential state at all times for the future, but there's the past. Well, the past is kind of a potential too. It's kind of weird because if you were to like reverse the math, there's no reason to say, well, if the past is 100% probability, because in the math, there's really nothing that's 100% probable. Not even the fact that this conversation's happening, not the fact that what I just said, I even said.
Yeah.
There's always this chance that it's not real, or that it's not there, or that it's not. So, I don't know. I forget what the fuck I was talking about. Number one. There's number one, this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of did throw a fucking shitball at you. It's like, unpack this.
Yeah. That's right. Multiple worlds theory. But at the same time, I do believe, or at least I think that it'd be interesting to look closer at probability and the role of volition in changing it. Because that itself, like if volition can do what it seems to be able to do, like having the power of free will in order to make decisions that would not otherwise be just the way the universe would roll. Like that's interesting and worth looking at. What was the second thing? Many worlds and premonition. Let's just call it premonition.
Yeah. Why not?
That is a phenomenal thing, and it's been recorded so many times, but it's one of those things where everybody would almost just have to look at each individual instance and weigh for themselves what's the likelihood of this actually being what it seems to be, and what's the likelihood of something. Maybe there's even some, like with Abraham Lincoln. He predicted his death. Yeah.
I don't know the story very well. All I know that Spooks guy or Spoof or whatever his name is, John Wilkes Booth.
Yeah. John Wilkes Booth. Yeah. John Wayne Gacy Wilkes Booth.
Really?
No.
There's a history.
Clown.
He just shows up in like really old school, like Joker makeup.
It wasn't me.
Fuck. And what is the story there? Was it the same thing as why they assassinated JFK? They just this guy's way too progressive. We gotta shut him down.
Probably.
The first and original MK Ultra. All right, Booth. Banana. Oh shit! I gotta go do something. Hold on.
Yeah. No, it's fucking assassinations. That's just it. Is that when it comes to him, like, did he just catch wind, and did he maybe try to prevent his assassination by saying it, because at that point, if he caught wind that he was going to be assassinated and he said, hey, listen, it looks like I'm going to be assassinated with gunfire or something, then it might put off his assassins, because it's like if you're had, right? Like if you're caught at the beginning of your act doing some crime, you're going to back out because you're caught, right? You've been had.
Absolutely.
So he might have said that for that reason. And with his case, I would suspect that he knew beforehand.
Yeah. Was that movie at all accurate to the details? What's his name? Ben Affleck's brother played Booth. Can't remember what the movie was called. It came out a few years ago.
No idea.
But, yeah, I think it had something to do with like the James Gang or something like that, and he was rolling with them, and then he was always like second. Like I could be fucking two movies together here, but something like he was rolling with people, and he was always being made fun of or whatever for not being the man he claimed he was. I guess he was always trying to be like, yeah, I'm the toughest gun around, I'm this, I'm that, and then everyone would always see him like fumble, you know, in actual practice of trying to be the person he said he was. And he's like, all right, you know what? I'm going to make a name for myself. I'm going to go take out the most important person in the country, or as far as they were concerned, the world, you know? But yeah.
The storytellers, I never believe them. I mean, they're the storytellers.
Yeah, the story.
Yeah. Once it's like, all right, let's make a book out of it or a movie out of it, then they have to start embellishing, and they're the anthropologists who find the same bead that the archaeologist, but for some reason the anthropologist thinks that they know, like, you know, gender preferences and their favorite music and whether they were moon worshipping or sun worshipping, and how they extrapolate all that shit, I have no idea. But if you're going to write a book or make a movie, then you have to make a character, you have to make a story.
Yeah, you have to give it substance.
Yeah. So who knows, right? Either way, did he really predict his death from a dream? I don't know. I mean, dreams. Or was he just intelligent enough to know that, like, how things are going? Because like it was just after the Civil War had ended, right? I don't know my history that well, but I assume because the Civil War happened. Yeah.
North won, slavery was getting abolished, whatever.
And then he found Doc again, got more of the stuff that he needed to get the car back to 2021 to 2002.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, honestly, man. Details for Lincoln, don't know. I really don't know. I could not tell you the time frame even. I'd be like 1870. I'd be guessing at the best.
My favorite Lincoln is Ape Lincoln. Remember at the end of Planet of the Apes, and the guy sees Lincoln, but it's got a monkey face. He's like, no!
Oh, really? Yeah. Do you know when the Civil War was? The U.S. Civil War?
I want to pull a number out of my ass and say the late 1700s?
No, it's got to be later than that.
Later than that? 1800s?
I can't hear you. What?
1861 to 1865.
Okay, 1860.
Woo!
1860 to 1865, yeah.
Mid-1800s.
That makes more sense, because they 1776 is when they became a
nation. Yeah.
A nation, proud and free. So yeah, 1860 they had their war of racism.
Yeah.
The war of racism.
It's still going. Woo!
Yeah, no matter who loses, everybody still loses.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, just keep on losing.
I done goofed and left my charger at work, so okay. I might lose video, and I don't think I can get it back. So that's gonna happen at some point.
What are you at?
Let's see.
Let's get the important stuff out then.
Oh, I got 40%. That's not bad.
You're already out.
I started at. Oh no, I had to do that so I could see it.
Don't you have a cord?
No, I left it at work. Well, my dad has one, but he came in all mad. He's like, "Give me my charger." I'm like, "Okay."
You just need a cord, though, right? You can plug it into anything.
I need an iPhone cord. I don't have that.
Oh, you're an Apple guy.
I'm an Apple guy.
That's your problem.
I know.
It's like $4 for a pack of 50 cords.
Oh, you should see. Like over behind me, I have like every cord except I don't know what they're called, Firebolt or Thunderbolt or whatever bullshit.
Thunderbolt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have that one. I've got the old Apple cords actually I do have a Thunderbolt because I've got an iPad 2, something.
Yeah.
I don't use it too much, but and then we've got the old iPhones. I think we both had iPhones at some point.
Yeah, they're not the worst gear. It's kind of bland how you're forced to look at the same whatever operating system. You're not allowed to customize it very much. Well, I think the newer ones there's a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. It's actually the hardware that I have a problem with Apple.
Yeah.
The software, I like the software.
Yeah.
They're a really good software company. They make a good operating system. They make good applications. Everything's very easy to use and very intuitive. And the problem is that they shouldn't be a hardware company.
Yeah.
It's the hardware that bogs everything down because they're too proprietary.
Yeah.
And you can't add stuff. Right, like with PCs, you need to be able to customize stuff, and you need to be able to pull this and add that, and throw stuff in willy nilly. And it doesn't matter what company it is; it needs to all work together. Mm-hmm. With Apple, you do not have that luxury. Mm-hmm. It's, in my opinion, there's no PC versus Apple market at all. There's Apple blows, and PC is everything.
Yeah.
Like Apple's great laptop, iPad, phone. Yeah. When it comes to like doing something on a PC. Or like on a computer, you can't. Nobody can afford, and some people can, but you shouldn't be spending ridiculous amounts of money on some prepackaged crap.
It's like the minimum price for like the 13 or 15 inch starter. It's like at least $7,000, I would imagine,
for a PC.
No,
for the
Mac.
Like iMac or whatever.
No, not even the tower. Just like one of their laptops, their whatever they're called. I don't know. I'm not a big aficionado of Apple.
Like Mac Pro.
Yeah, that's the word. Yeah.
Honestly, though, that's where if you're looking for a good laptop, don't waste your time with a Toshiba or a fucking Acer. Go with an Apple. Like if you want a laptop, your Apple will operate at full capacity, at full it will stay. The battery will stay. Apples are immaculately made insofar as the laptop and the tablet and the phone. It's just the computer world, and even the tablet and the phone and the laptop. I'd say the laptop really does excel. Like insofar as if you were to look at the hardware specs compared to something else, if you wanted to edit or something, it's kind of the only thing that you could use to really do anything that's got some power need, because all the other laptops would fail. But when it comes to like your phone's pretty much entirely other components. Yeah. Right? Like Apple doesn't really make the components that are in the phone. Right. So at that point, if I could say buy a Samsung phone rather than an LG or Samsung. Now if I had Mac OS as an option on my Samsung, or Android as an option on my Samsung, I might actually use the macOS operating system specifically because of the apps and its ability to translate between devices and between systems and send stuff quite easily, and all the software advantages that Apple has that I just simply can't get into because I don't want the hardware disadvantages. Right. In the proprietary box world, Yeah. And back when I had to add a song to my iPhone 3 or whatever, it was such a pain in the shit. And it was just frustrating. because you had to, at that point you had to use iTunes. There was no other way to navigate in or out. Because they were squeezed, they opened that up. But they're still the company that will squeeze your balls.
Yeah.
And make you fit into their idea of how things should work. You know, whereas Samsung or Apple, or sorry, like if you buy an HP, you can pull the stuff off. And then if you want to buy an external CD-ROM drive, you can go buy a $24 one and plug it in. And it's that easy, you know, because it should be.
Yeah.
But fuck Apple. I mean, I love Apple, don't get me wrong, because I love my iPad.
Right to repair, boys.
And back
ladies.
in the old, yeah, exactly, shit like that, right?
Yeah.
Like back in the day, people were squeezed because I don't know if you did any audio recording, but Pro Tools wasn't on PC.
No,
It just wasn't. It was Mac only.
yeah, and if you wanted to put it on, you had to hack your PC into a Hackintosh. You had to build it specifically, and then you have to do a whole bunch of cracks and whatever so that the software plays nice with the hardware.
Yep. And I'd never heard of anything like that at all, because back then, if you said, okay, you can run it on Linux or FreeBSD, or, you know, just any kind of a Unix, or I probably wouldn't be able to play with Unix, but I mean, I had Red Hat and shit like that, right? So, but it didn't. It was just Mac, and it sucked. Same with Media Composer, which is also, it's the video version. You know, I don't even think they were owned by the same company at that time, but I think Digitisign owned Pro Tools.
Yeah.
And Avid owned Media Composer, and now Avid owns both. But
right on.
Either way, that was like why you had a Mac, right? Same as I think Photoshop. I think Photoshop was like you need a Mac to run Photoshop.
Now it's a web browser. There's so many, like what do you call Photoshop? What's like the official term for that kind of a program?
Photo editing suite.
Photo editing suite. Yeah, you can get like really good cheap ones that are just it's literally you open up your internet browser, you open it up, and you don't have to download anything, and it's just as good, if not better, depending on your perspective. Big there. Yeah. Big. I'm glad you added that, because I used to use Microsoft Image Composer, and that came with not even XP. It came with Windows 98 SE. No way.
Right. So yeah, and I mean, even when I was like getting into video and visual effects stuff, coloring stuff, just small at home by myself. Yeah. What the fuck was I saying? Oh yeah, Media Composer. I'd use Media Composer 15 years after it came out, just because it was the easiest. Yeah. But it was really bad quality, and eventually I had to shed it just because of the quality aspect of it. Yeah. Even though it was just easier, like if I had to like crop something, like, you know, put somebody's head on somebody else's body. Yeah. Media Composer took 2 minutes. Photoshop would take 20 or more, depending if I could figure out how to work the layers again, you know, because I hate Photoshop. Was the MIDI a lot more automated with its was it just automated better or just Photoshop doesn't have MIDI? No, Photoshop's just for photos. Oh, I thought you could do some crazy stuff, like if you broke into the code. That's what, right? You can get it to automate things and like I've seen this guy turn Photoshop into a game of Tetris just by going into the code and writing a couple of lines. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. No, it's usually, it's literally just for compositing photographs. Right. If you're going to like, do any photo editing, like retouching and stuff like that, Adobe's got Lightroom, which is a little bit more suitable these days. But back then Photoshop was the thing, just to composite photos. That's really all it does. is a composites photo. So you've got layers and you can cut things out and put them on top of each other and blend modes and some glows and lights effects here and there. But I'm horrible at it. I use After Effects.
Don't forget Papa Abrams lens flare, signature lens flare.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's After Effects.
Yeah,
that's more After Effects, visual effects. Once you want to start compositing photos 24 frames a second, then you throw it into After Effects. And
24 frames is like the standard for film, right? Like when you're actually using film to capture cinema.
I don't know about. Yeah, most cinematic stuff is done in 23.976. You could call it 24.
Yeah.
As far as film, if you go to the film theater, stuff like that that's what they're aiming for, and then there's a conversion in order to put that onto television. Television's 30.
Oh yeah,
YouTube's 30.
And that's because of monitor frequencies usually at 60 hertz, right? So
electricity is at 60 hertz.
Yeah, and so like to make it all smooth and jive together, that's the golden number, the half it. Don't you love how math works like that?
Yeah. Well, and then you can work with different things like interpolated frames or progressive frames, where interpolated frames only show breaks up the screen into a bunch of lines and then shows you different line sets at different periods.
Yeah. And you're none the wiser because you're a stupid human.
Yeah, your brain picks it up as a single image.
Yeah.
Just like really the image changing 24 frames a second, it gets picked up by the brain as a fluid motion, right?
What is the human's frame per second? Like, how do we perceive reality? Because I know I don't know, but I believe that it's that's how the brain receives information from the eyes. It's like blip, 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 blip. I wonder how.
It is different. It is different, but I think that it is like somewhere around 120 or something like that.
Woo.
Bits per second.
Man,
something like that. But it would literally change for somebody's own focus state. That would change.
Yeah.
And different people.
How do you
creatures? Because that's like, look at a hummingbird or a fly, right?
Absolutely.
You get halfway through the air and the fly's already, fucking cursed your mother and spat on you, and it's gone, right? Our idea of time and its idea of time is so skewed, but it doesn't relate the same. Some things experience a whole ton of moments in one of our moments. That's actually one of the things about premonition. It's one of the ways of almost describing like a reasonable sense of premonition is that different periods of time are like absorbed differently. And if you were to take a person and let's just say they experience 1 moment per second, and then you're to take a person and they were to experience, say, 5 moments per second, right? Yeah. Now, let's say in that second, you went from yellow to red, right? Yeah. Now, one person has 5 moments within it, and one person has 1. So one person sees yellow, kind of orange, redder, red. Okay. And one person sees from yellow to red.
Yeah.
Now, when the one person's at yellow or at orange, they can say it's orange, and then the other person could say it's red. And then half a second later, it's red, and it appears that they have had some kind of a premonition that it was going to turn red. Meanwhile, at the scale of what they're perceiving things at, they're just perceiving the same moments, but they're perceiving larger chunks at a time. So the person A's present is actually just a portion in the center of person B's present. Person B has a broader perspective, lower resolution, but because of that, they're going to see essentially the future, the world according to the future of the other person. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's making me, I don't want to cut you off here, but it's making me think of, like, I played lacrosse when I was a kid, and once we got to a certain level, we were able to throw the ball at each other without even looking at each other, because we were trained that you throw the ball in a certain place and it should get there. So you give yourself a quick look and be like, yeah, I'm going to give it to you. You don't tell the other team that you're going to get the ball, but you know you're going to get the ball. So you're already expecting that ball to be right there, right in front of you in like 2 seconds. Like, and that's something I never thought about when I was playing, like how we would just like play Jedi mind tricks with each other just because we were all so trained and practiced up with each other that we didn't have to send tells to the team, even though like at the level we were playing at, it's not like any of the kids were that, with it to pick it up, but some of them were. But like, yeah,
well-oiled machine stuff like that, right?
Yeah, but it's like it's not even like you see it in your mind's eye. You just know, it's gonna be there. Yeah. I don't know. That's kind of like what it was reminding me of. It was like those things, but then like reflecting on it afterwards, I could remember the feeling that I used to get. Just like, oh, I'm pretty confident that I don't need to see this ball coming because I know it's coming. And I don't know if that's similar to premonition or not, or if that's just rinse and repeat, and it's just all
rinse and repeat.
Yeah,
I guess too. Once you work in a team like that, then there's a real something interesting about being a cog in a wheel.
Yeah.
When you're one of 10 people that are working together, literally physically like that, where you are a part of a body. You're essentially just one function.
Yeah.
It's not about you. It's not about your conscious mind. Your unconscious is really more useful, and your unconscious is unified with the rest of the people like an organism at that point. And your consciousness gets to be there for the ride, but it doesn't need to be fully aware and fully in check and fully, because the goal of you as a lacrosse player at that point is to be part of a team.
Yeah.
And there's also these structures. Everybody, when you are the forward guy, like I didn't play lacrosse, but I played soccer and, I played baseball, but I don't think baseball really relates. I think soccer relates.
Yeah. Soccer is really similar.
If you are one of those forward guys and the person in the middle area gets the ball and the person who should be on you is fucked off across the field, you start running.
Yeah.
You start running just because you've got an intuition at that point. You can see the way the ball's going. You can see the way the play is going. And you know that guy who's got the ball in the center wants you to be as fucking far out as you can be, because this is your play.
Yeah.
This is the time. Yeah. And you know it. So then you go for it. Right. And it's not, I wouldn't call it premonition at that point, but I would, it is interesting. Yeah. It's really interesting for me how the conscious and the unconscious work together too.
I've been really jiving with this idea the past couple of days that like I've already described human beings and any other organic life that reproduces as being self-replicating, self-programming, autonomous machines. We're fleshy. It doesn't matter what we're made out of, but like I've been struggling with believing in, is there free will or is there not? Well, now I'm kind of set on there's a little of both, right? You do have, a bit of free will. Some people have more than others, right? Not everyone is built or programs themselves the same way. But I really feel like there is a lot to our biology, what we the hardware we're naturally given as we grow up. But I think a lot of the firmware and software is programmed by not just who raises you and who teaches you things, but how you yourself come to understanding things and creating programs. Like, the thing that got me to think about that was, like, I have a pretty good handle on landmarks. Like, if I'm in a new place, I can figure out that, like, how to traverse. I don't need to know the streets intimately, but as long as I know what's my north marker, what's my east marker, what's my south marker, what's my west marker, I can pretty much build a little vague, model in my mind, and I can go. And and that to me feels,
and you can move within it and still keep your direction. Yeah.
And then, like, I meet people that, like, even with a GPS, they can't even make, like, cognitive decisions that are more efficient. They'll still go, like, the long way around because they have no idea where they are. I don't understand that. So the only way I could understand that is, like, for whatever reason, you didn't write that program good enough or at all. Because I don't think that's a physical thing. I think that is a conscious program. Like, and I know I'm using computer terms, but that's
no. It works for the mind from psychology, because we are definitely programmed.
Yeah.
But no, I agree. And I'm actually one of the people who have major directional problems, depending on what it is, because if I'm driving around and there's the Golden Ears Mountains, pretty tough to, like, lose where you are in, direction of things. But if I'm in the city, just, like, whatever the opposite direction of the way I want to go is likely the proper way. Like, I'm just totally turned around. I don't know where I am. I go to take my car to Richmond, and, like, 2 blocks down the road, 1 block over, there's a mall. Every time. And I mean, how many times, right? How many times have we been there? Many. 8, 10 times. I'm walking around with my GPS, spinning around in circles, trying to find which way the pointy guy is. And I'll walk around it. Like, it's amazing. It's a mall. I'm looking for the mall and I can't find it. I'll literally walk all over the place. But that is literally, some people blindfolded can be like, what are you talking about? It's right over there. And you're like, how do you know that? And because they've got this, like, internal gyroscope where they're like, well, I was physically pointing that direction before, and now we're walking in this direction. So that means that it's, and I'm like, how do you know that? But yeah, you're right. It's that they haven't programmed it. It is very much a part of programming. And it has a lot to do with necessity. Like, my buddy who is a pizza delivery guy in Surrey, he had everything nailed, and he could have done it in his sleep. I've never had any type of a, like, job like that, and I've never had to rely on direction. When I was, like, my 3 years on set, I not only relied on GPS, but I, like, heavily relied on GPS, because the directions were really crappy too, and the call sheets like that. And no, like, really, I'd miss turns. I'd have to leave early because I knew that I'd be missing my turns and I'd be late because, depending too, the GPS in my Jeep, I'll get to the street. I'm like 30 feet past an intersection. Turn right here.
Say what? Is that the proprietary software that Chrysler put in? Yeah, that's probably why.
Yeah. Whereas the Google machine is like, that red car in front of you, is follow him.
Does it actually say that?
No,
Oh,
but
fuck.
might as well,
That would
right?
be awesome.
The red car in front of you is going to the same location. Follow them.
I don't know if Google does this, but the iPhone Maps does a pretty neat thing where it bounces or it reads all of the other iPhones that are in front of you, and it'll start showing you where traffic is slowing down because they're taking your information and they're clocking your speed, and they're just like, yo, you're about to hit some traffic, buddy. Oh shit, you're right. Thanks.
Yeah. Now imagine being part of the 70% of market of people who have cell phones. So you're part of the 30%, and you get that data.
Yeah.
Me being part of the 70%, Google is collecting like vast amounts more data than Apple, and they're doing the exact same thing, including it. But it's like, yeah, obviously, when it comes to stuff like traffic or analytics, insofar as people movements, where somebody might be, you know, all that sort of shit, Google has it nailed because they've got the largest. Android is a much larger market.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's really closer to like 10% of the market's iPhone.
It's a lot more accessible, isn't it? Like you're one or the other, because like is Microsoft even in the game anymore?
Yeah, Microsoft still has phones.
Jesus.
But the thing is that like the majority market for apps, as far as paid apps, like if you want to sell an app to somebody, you're actually better off in an Apple store.
Yeah.
Because something like 10% of phone users in the world use Apple, but something like 70% of the market share of paid apps is through the Apple store. Because that 10% of the market has all the money to buy apps.
Yeah.
They're more likely to buy an app, whereas a Samsung user is more likely to want an app for free.
Yeah.
It's true, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of weird, but yeah. No, they do traffic assessment and all that sort of shit. My Jeep does it too. They'll be like, it'll say, "There's an accident ahead. You might want to take a reroute," and then I can hit one of the routes. It's just for whatever reason, its triangulation's not as accurate as my phone, right?
Yeah.
It wants to miss shit.
Yeah, I have just like this is just like pulling it out of my hat, but like I feel like those proprietary car softwares, I'm pretty sure they're all like older versions of Android.
They're horrible, man.
Yeah, and it's just
horrible.
like it's such a bad business plan. It does. You're already spending the money to have, you know, an office full of people program it, whatever, and they know that it's going to be obsolete, and they don't like. Do they even offer like live updates or anything like that, or
They can't because it's too pathetic, right? The thing is like Jeep. I appreciate that Jeep has, because I got the Renegade, so it's got the smarter stuff in it, right? I'm not sure if any Wranglers are very smart at all. Like even like the really super expensive one that I was looking at a week ago, it has a key, like a key lock.
It doesn't have the fob.
Like, what the fuck is a key lock? I haven't had a key lock in years, right? I went from a smart car to a Renegade.
Right on.
But yeah, so a key. But Jeep is like, you don't even have air conditioning usually. You know?
Really?
Well, no. Jeeps are simple. Roll the window down with your hand. You know? Like they're
like what are the
they're meant for 4x4ing and for getting places and for simplicity. And so anything that can, like, if your like door or your window can get fucked up because of like water or something, ain't much of a Jeep, right? Like it's got to be able to withstand
I see.
stuff.
Yeah.
And so they're not usually very fancy city pussy stuff. Mine's like heated seats, steering wheel.
What's the big one called? It's got a silly name.
Hummer.
This podcast brought to you by Chrysler Jeep.
Yeah, no, I saw a really good Jeep one day, and I was like, "Now that is the Jeep that I wanted to buy."
I'm actually gonna. I'm mad. I want to find out.
I got closer, and it was a Hummer.
Oh, well, shit. Jeeps made this.
They make a Gladiator. The Gladiator's the truck.
they make a truck that has a flatbed in the back.
It's
I
a
thought that
Gladiator.
was pretty neat. Is it? Is that what it's called?
Yeah. It's like 50-year-old women love that shit. And
it's called a Gladiator. That's. I guess they stopped using the brand that I'm thinking of.
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Are you talking about Willie? A Willie?
No, they had like a silly name, and I can't remember what it's called, like a sequoia or something. What the fuck? I don't know. Doesn't matter. We're getting off topic.
Not aware of it. I went from like YJ and TJ and stuff like that to the Wrangler. I think Jeep's gone really downhill myself, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that they should probably have more than just their one like fucking design of Wrangler. And you know, I was talking to the guy and I'm like, why is this one taller than that one? And he's like, oh, because that's a Rubicon.
That's the one. That's what like, that's what I want.
You're telling me that as a Rubicon's like taller? Like, what if I just want a fucking taller? Like, what if I just want to buy a Jeep and I want to pimp it out? I want to lift it up. And he's like, oh, well, you got to go get the fucking certified. So I said, well, why don't you guys sell cool Jeeps?
Yeah.
Why do you have a shiny red fucking vanilla ass fucking Jeep here? Why am I looking at this vanilla fucking Jeep when you have Mopar parts? You can lift this shit. Like if you're like, hey, check this one out, and it had 34-inch tires and it was lifted and it had like fucking grilly shit over the lights and it was, you know, they're like, you know, it's a bit more, but I'd be like, fuck, I don't care if it's a bit more.
I want it,
you know.
They want you to spend that money on the base model.
Do it. Pack it in, right?
Yeah.
Like, if they're like, well, you know, this one's going to be like 75, but it'll have it all.
Yeah.
Like, why are you fucking even pushing this vanilla shit? Pimp it out, and then put it on the showroom floor.
Well,
because at one point when I went there to bring my car in, there was I was probably about 10 years old, but it wasn't like super old. It wasn't old enough to be excusable. Jeep there, and it was lifted up. It had an aftermarket hood that was like a Ural truck, like one of those like old military
it has like
truck.
The nose that comes down kind of thing. Yeah.
And it was painted camo green. It had the stars on it. Fucking
badass.
It was ripped, dude. It was ripped, and I'm like, why don't they have that? Yeah, again, charge for it, right? Like, why do I have to daydream about Hummers when the dealership could just be like, all right, well, let's throw fucking 10K into a 40K Jeep and sell it for 50.
Yeah.
Like, why not?
It's got to be the market. It's if there was any demand for it, they would have no choice.
I have no idea how. When I first got my Renegade, some woman stopped me in a parking lot and was like, did I just see you had a Renegade with a sunroof? Right? She fought with her dealership to get a Renegade with a sunroof, and they insisted that they didn't even exist.
Why?
That they did not, because they didn't have any.
Oh.
They didn't have any.
So they wanted the sale.
They wanted to put her into a Renegade, so they convinced her that they didn't exist. I'm like, yes, the limited edition. It's got the sunroof.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh my God, I went with they told me the what is it, like it's not Land Rover, Land Raider, or I don't know. Jeep's got like this fucking thing that Trailblazer or something like that. Anyway, she got that one, and they convinced her that there was no sunroof package because again they didn't have one in the showroom or whatever. So, but yeah, she was choked, and I was like, I honestly don't know what to tell you.
That's on her. Sorry, lady.
We're not digging, but at the same time,
I don't understand. That's one of my favorite parts about getting something. Something that I want, something that I need. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna take like a couple days. I'm gonna go as far as down the rabbit hole as I possibly can on the internet, You know, I might not gain that much knowledge, but I will be that much closer to being able to make a real concise decision on what I want. And if you don't have what I want, like, okay, thanks. No. You don't have it. I don't want anything else. Thank you. Bye. No. Come here.
If you can bring it in, then maybe. But when I got my Jeep, I actually went there. My smart car just shit the bed. And it's too expensive to fix at that point. It was actually the key fob locked me out. I'm not kidding you. So the key fob locked me out, and then I had to order another key fob from Germany from the Mercedes people because they make smart car.
Wasn't a battery issue? No,
it got desynced.
Oh fuck!
So the fob desyncs to the car.
Yeah.
Right. What it was is that my fob died after a while or whatever like that. I think I only got one when I bought the car.
Yeah.
And so the fobs are like, to have them programmed, they're like between $350 and $500 a pop. Shit. And they're a key. They're an actual key.
Yeah.
They're a key fob combined, so it's not all keyless. You actually have to start that car with a key because it was 2006 or something. Anyway, at any rate, it got desynced, so it would no longer unlock the car.
That's crazy.
It would no longer activate the engine. It would no longer, and it was because I had bought an aftermarket key, got it synced with a place, got it synced with a
locksmith,
a mechanic, that deals in smart cars exclusively. So I had this mechanic the whole time because they were good for smart cars. And the fob died, and this mechanic was on vacation.
Oh, no.
For 2 weeks. Right? So I was like, oh, my God. And I was on set in Squamish, actually, Britannia Bay.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's out there.
Yeah. So anyway, I went to work. Parked at the studio, Canadian Motion Picture Park, because our visual effects trailers were there. Parked my smart car out front, went in, then had to go to set. No smart car. Like literally just wouldn't open, wouldn't unlock, wouldn't nothing. So I was like, I think the first day I got to drive in with my boss because I was like, I have no idea, but doesn't really matter at this point. The important thing is got to get set.
Yeah.
And then the next day I had to take off because I ended up figuring out, it wasn't sync. It was the sync problem. And I mean, it all had to happen really, really quickly because I had to work and I didn't want to rent a car. So, and this is like, I was done with the smart car by this point. It's kind of a pain in the ass and it's not cheap when certain things go and all that sort of shit. Right. So I was like, I'm going to get out while the getting's good. So I went to the Jeep dealership for a Compass, and it just was like, I want your cheapest because it was cheap. Compass is the cheapest of their line, but it's still like kind of a mostly 4-wheel drive, like 4-wheel-ish.
Yeah.
Same kind as like a Mazda or a fucking whatever bullshit 4-wheel drive, but so I needed something 4-wheel drive for work because I got to get around in the snow and all sorts of stuff too. So, anyway, I was like, I don't want anything fancy because I didn't want to pay for anything. I just wanted a fucking vehicle. I just need a vehicle to run. It's like, I want to roll my windows down and then turn on the radio because I don't even have a tape deck. Maybe a CD player if we want to get fancy. Yeah. But I ended up driving away with a cheap Renegade limited edition with 100% of everything, bells and whistles, fucking leather, Dre sound package, or
the Beats, whatever.
Yeah, it was bad, man.
Did it at least come with like the headphones, or did they say,
no.
"Hey"?
No. The stereo sucks. It's the worst stereo I've ever had in a vehicle in my life. Like some shit that I threw together in 1980 as not in 1980 because I would have been 4, but like solid 1989, I could have made you a better stereo, no problem.
Yeah.
12 years old, I had my fucking alarm clock rigged up with an 8-speaker stereo system and
Hell yeah.
it would have been better because the Beats by Dre is it's shit. Like it's no less than total shit.
Yeah, no,
it's so shit, in fact, that I can't even drown myself out. Like if I want
start singing.
Yeah, if I want to not hear my own voice, I have to sing really quietly. You know, if I open the windows, I can't hear the music.
Huh? Is there like a governor on the thing, or that's just as
Lord only knows, man. All I could find out from other users was that it's shit, and if you fuck with it, you void your warranty on it.
Oh no.
But the splitter in there is I think it's just simply being set up wrong. I'm not sure if there's a limiter. I guess there's a limiter because these days they're going to include a limiter simply for the reasons that you to preserve the speakers.
Yeah.
But it's like the subs are in the front door.
That's not right.
And the tweeter is in the back, you know, like the very, very back.
What?
Speaker is a tweet, like a super tweet even. So it's like...
That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense at all. So I thought the crossover was wired fucked up. And I thought, yeah, they fucked up the crossover, of course. Da-da-da. No, it's not. I looked it up on the internet, and people are like, no, legit, they put a tweeter in the back, guys. They put a tweeter in the back, and they put the subs in the door so that you get that feeling like you've got a sub.
Yeah.
But
that's dog water.
It's totally dog water, dude.
Yeah.
It's totally dog water.
That's not good. I don't like it.
Super poop. Super poop.
I've seen some of those like nice higher end, like I'm not sure what brand it is, but like I'm gonna say Lexus for argument's sake. And they do those like 5.1 setups where they've got like one right in the center of the dash, right where the glass meets the frame. And then like it's not hard to design and engineer, right? Get a couple of 5s or 6s there. Get 110. You don't even need 2. Like subwoofers, people go ridiculous. Mm-hmm. They want like, oh, I need 2 12s. 110, baby.
Oh, 110 in a car? Holy crap.
That's all you need for sub. Just 110.
My bass amp is 110.
Yeah.
And it's fucking it cranks.
Yeah. Like 10's like, actually now like modern bass amplifier and cabinet companies are making 12-inch standard cabs for designed for bass. I was like, you know, if this was me as a teenager, I would be like, that's a guitar cab. But like I've been playing guitar and I play through 3 15s.
Oh really?
Yeah. Wow. I have a silly setup. I have a like, and I'm all processor too. Like I'm using like one of those digital things they're actually good now, but I go through a 300 watt bass amp and I go into the effects loop. So I bypass the preamp and I just use it to power my cabinets. And I've got two 15-inch Fender, like PA, they're just PA, cabinets, and they've got tweeters on them. And then I got like this old school like 70s or 80s Sudden 15-inch bass cab that was my dad's.
Are the Fender speakers like wooden loudspeakers type thing?
No, they're just they're regular 15-inch. They're PA speakers, so they've got like more range to them, right?
Yeah.
But it sounds like I'm playing through a guitar cab. Like the diameter, like being 15 inches, I figured it would be like a lot more fatter, a lot more bottom end. It might, but it's really clear and it's not like over bassy or anything like that. So I'm kind of like, I'm kind of like liking to seeing the switch around. Like guitar speakers are getting bigger and bass speakers are getting smaller.
Well, yeah, my bass amp is 10-inch. I'm pretty sure. I've got like a crate bass amp that I've had for 25 years or something like that. And that's my guitar amp. Wow. I use a bass amp as a guitar amp.
Yeah.
Because it's bassier.
Yeah, tons of people do that. Like, what's his nuts? From the Misfits, Doyle, the Frankenstein guitar player. He uses SVT classics.
Frankenstein guitar player, like from Edgar Winter Band.
No, from Doyle von Frankenstein from the Misfits.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay, I thought you meant like no, Frankenstein the song.
I mean, dig up her bones.
Gotcha.
But yeah, like I was watching a rig rundown of his, and he was like, "Yeah, man, like I just couldn't find an amp that was like giving it. Like I used Marshalls, I used this, I used that, and then one day a tech came up to me. He's like, "Here, try using an SVT Classic." He's like, "Come on, that's a bass amp, buddy." He's just like, "Come on, try it out." And he's like, "I haven't turned back since." Like, I'm pretty sure he still goes through like 4x12 cabinets, but his power plant is a fucking bass amp.
Well, the cabinet thing is kind of like, are you playing live or not? I don't play live, right? I've always just done recording or small. Like if I really my bass amp's a subwoofer for my 5.1. That's what I used for the most part, because I just never played live enough, and if I use it, it's just a mic. So I don't overdrive it. Obviously, it's a bass amp, right? Yeah. So it's not. There's no gain drive or there's no frap. You have any distortion. You have to use a distortion pedal. Or I've got a Rocktron.
Are Rocktrons? Is Rocktrons like kind of like a multiple? Like you have several different distortion and fuzz effects, or is it? I
don't know. Which decade are you talking about? Because I think I've got like the earliest Rocktron ever made.
So it's literally like just one.
I've got three. Here, I'll show you.
Yeah, I love gear. Okay. Yeah.
So there's get my mic sorted here. There's 3 modes of distortion, ABC. There's echo, ambience, chorus, delays. There's an exciter, and then I've got an output in control, and then I've got my loop control as the last button. It's just in case I want to loop.
Is there much of a, like, can you fuck with the tone at all, or is it all just like what it is what it is? You just press the button and that's what you get.
The tone is actually, there's 5 exciter states, and that's really kind of the tone. If that's what you mean.
Yeah. Like you can adjust like the middle and the treble and the bass of it, or
no, like this is buttons. These are the buttons that I get to hit. So I get to push a button, but no, I mean I've got other stuff. Like I've got for that, one sec. So this is literally all my heavy equipment here. Here we've got an EQ made by Realistic. Pretty sure this is 70s.
Beautiful.
Might be 80s. It's actually a reverb machine, electronic reverb.
Huh.
So my distortion there, that's a tube. There's, as far as I understand it,
yeah,
it's a tube distortion, and it's really thick and fat and fuzzy. And then I've also got another distortion. Oops, another distortion. This is made by Roland. This is the Roland Double Beat AD50 with a wah pedal. Or you can control how much distortion you have.
Oh, that's dope.
So it's got the output. You can change your waveform. You've got tone selector knob. 3. You've got the fuzz button.
Yeah.
And then obviously you've got your wah. And this is like the dirtiest, shittiest wah pedal. Again, I'm not sure if it's 60s. I'm guessing about 60s for this one. 60s, maybe 70s.
Is the fuzz kind of reminiscent of like what Billy Corgan would use for Smashing Pumpkins, like where it's just like it gets to that real high note, but it's lots of body, lots of hiss, lots of like you can break it up if you know how to dangle the strings just right.
This is I mean, this is literally like the earliest fuzz. So this is like this is kind of like a chainsaw effect on the like it's real, and this is real. This is real, right? Yeah. That's the thing I like about it. This isn't some fucking like digital, taking the digital signal and applying some mathematical algorithms to apply the sawtooth something. Yeah. This is literally chewing the sound.
Yeah.
And it sounds like a fucking, like, this is like really Deep Purple-y, Edgar Winter bandy,
nice.
Where you've just it's fucking it's really great, man.
Yeah.
And then I got my reverb pedal made by Morley, and I'm guessing this is, well, I have no idea about the date again, but all of my shit is like older than me. Really.
It was all
that way.
It was all made really good.
Oh, yeah.
Like all the microphones are still the exact same design being used now. Like the electronics might be a little bit updated, but the cartridges and the SM58s and 57s are the exact same ones back from the 50s.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Like if you make it good,
it's just these that are different, right? Like these types of mics are different. But yeah, I've got my Shure 58, and I like old mics.
Yeah.
The reason that I have all this old stuff is the last album that I recorded on also the same age mixer. Yeah. So I sold the mixer when I got here because I didn't have the room for it, but it was called a keyboard mixer, quote unquote. Okay. So it was like this big fucking huge thing, you have the strap on the side, put it on a big table, old, and it was so dirty and so gross. Yeah. And every time you touched a fucking knob, the pots would scream. Oh yeah. It was hot, it was crackly. You turn it on, like because I recorded that into a computer.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have a reel-to-reel, and I just was not going to fuck around to that level, but everything aside from the computer was all super vintage equipment. And just the regular air is such a hum because it's all the fucking keyboard mixer that I mixed everything through had like a spring reverb in it.
Nice.
No.
It wasn't good.
No, I mean, like,
you bump into it and you can hear it go.
Oh, dude, somebody could walking and it'd be like.
It was sensitive.
Super sensitive. Old, man. We're talking so old. Like, you shouldn't even be using the shit anymore. But
they still make amps with that. So there goes.
Here we go.
Yeah, it's dead.
We've lost our video. You know what? I think that we could even have a part 2 on Dreams, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because we end up talking about everything but what we're supposed to be talking about. And there's still some stuff. How do you feel about that? You into a part 2 for dreams?
I am into a part 2 of dreams because I'm really into discussing because it's part of like talking about it. It helps me think about it. It's like I can only think about so many things on my own. I can only come up with so many Google searches, but it's not until actually sitting down with someone and bouncing ideas off of each other that awakens new questions and new angles of looking at things, new perspectives, if you will. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And as far as answers go, I mean, when it comes to something like dreams, there really isn't, thankfully, just to make it easier on everybody, there really isn't that much to know aside from the subjectivity, right? I mean, there's so many books, like starting with Freud, you start to have interpretations and stuff like that, but the usefulness of that type of information is so limited, it's basically useless is what I'm saying. To the point where, we can explore some elements of like proper empirical data dream stuff, but for the most part, dreams are an entirely subjective thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anything to it? Like, we literally just established that people lucid dream.
Man,
that's as far as modern science goes. And everybody needs, when they're dealing with stuff like this, they need to have an appreciation of the limits to science, where everybody can know something as a common sense thing where we all experience it universally. And at some point, science will be like, hey, we just discovered that, like you can piss yourself when you laugh. And it's like, oh, okay. Because the 5 billion people that already knew that wasn't fucking enough. But for science, it really isn't enough, because you have to be able to prove something. And to prove something, you have to even be able to prove it. Right.
Has there been any proof to the concept of people that die in their dreams die in in real life?
That there's no reason to believe that. No.
There's no reason to believe that. Yeah. No. Yeah, someone tried to put one on me. It was like, yeah, have you ever gotten shot or mortally wounded in a dream? I'm just like, yeah. And then what happens? It's just like, I kind of ride it out for a while and then I wake up. It's like, but you don't die. I'm like, yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, and you probably can't. Like, I've fallen off high places and then landed millimeters above the ground, and then I could float above the ground millimeters. Yeah. Was anything outside of your perspective, right? Like, I've been on really, really lots and lots and lots of drugs too, and been like, well, what happens if I just suddenly like don't exist, and then I stopped existing for a sec?
Yeah.
And then kind of panicked for a minute, and then I was like, wait a second, but how can I panic if I don't exist? And then it all just collapsed, and I realized that I can't not exist as long as I do.
Yeah.
It's just how it is. It's a paradox, really. Same thing with dreams. There's the dream researchers say that you can't turn on light switches. You can't see yourself in the mirror. You can't, like, there's a whole bunch of rules that have been established with some confidence to actual scientific researchers that I'm not sure I necessarily agree with, but one thing I do agree with is that there's a lot of stages, layers of consciousness, and there's a lot to play with. Like, I've started experimenting with dreaming and waking up in my dreams and things happening and stuff like that when I was quite young, because it was perturbing to me to see myself lose consciousness. Like, where do I go when I sleep? Because I'm not here. Where do I go? And I'd wake up and I'd be like, that is so weird that I just like woke up from like, what? Where was I just then? And that led to like the theory that merging with the subconscious is something to work towards. I found that when I was a kid, and that led me to the belief of trying to sit on the fence, as I called it. I considered myself a person that sat on the fence. And because I watched myself and other people be able to go from conscious to unconscious to conscious to unconscious, as well as like reach certain states of consciousness and then forget all about it, and then reach certain states of consciousness and then forget all about it. And so I tried to figure out how to sit on the fence where I could be aware of both states of consciousness simultaneously and pull things over from my unconscious to my conscious and become more conscious of my unconscious as a result. Right. Yeah. And then that led to a weird sort of side effect where I've started to become more awake in my dreams, and I almost started to become more dreamy in my awake. Right? Like there's this weird blend, there's this weird merge where it was literally a byproduct of kind of just becoming of the curiosity and becoming more and more and more aware of the switch between conscious and unconscious and where that line divide was, and maybe how did I feel when all that sort of shit. I just ended up becoming more and more and more lucid. Until the point where I ended up being able to control a bunch of different faculties, which I think is interesting, but for another day. Yeah. For another day.
Yeah, sorry I wasn't with it today.
No worries.
Yeah.
Got your cord next time, and this is good. It's kind of nice to talk about everything but the topic sometimes. And we got a little on the dreams anyways, but
a good one though is like now I'm actually gonna, because like whenever you give me a heads up like a day or two before what you're kind of thinking about talking about, I haven't once started like contemplating what I want to talk about, or I don't research anything. I just go like, let's just see where it goes. But usually after, whereas I'm like, oh, I wish I brought this up. I wish I brought that up. I think that would be nice for me to have that. Absolutely. and then bring it up next time. Because like I do sometimes, I think, bring up things that I wanted to talk about in the next podcast. But
yeah, absolutely. Sometimes a podcast about a subject actually just inspires the right questions. Yeah. When it comes to the audience too, we don't have to provide answers because I don't think at any point somebody's going to like look to us to be the people to provide them the answers to anything. Like maybe like, what's your opinion about that weed type? Does it taste good? Does it get you ripped? I mean, somebody's going to ask me that. What about your favorite guitar string? But as far as like, what is like the, level of consciousness for this or that, or the dream or technical, I don't think that we really have to provide an answer.
Well, answers can be subjective too, right? Like almost, I'm almost trying to dance around saying like the answers are within, and I'm not trying to be cryptic or whatever, but I'm just like, sometimes you can get an answer, the same answer from like 4 or 5 different people. It'll all be the same answer, but it'll all be presented differently. They will all have different nuances, and it'll all share a similar truth, but it doesn't mean it's facts. It doesn't mean it's correct.
No, absolutely not.
It'll be someone's truth.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, evoking questions is really all a person could do. Quite often, like when it comes to the biggest questions, I think the answers are self-evident, or the answers are not something that you have to find because they present themselves. They exist whether or not you ask the question, and the goal is to improve the question so that you can see the same answer in a better light, and on the spiral, every time we ask the same question, we end up getting a better, more refined answer. Absolutely. Even if it's wrong, which is probably wrong, but it's right in its own way. Yeah. All wrong answers are still relevant, right in their own way. Yeah. It takes a stage of being wrong 80 times before, the puzzle becomes clear. Absolutely. All right, brother. Thank you for the talk. And,
Thank you.
We'll catch up to you hopefully next week.
Yeah. I should have my stuff together better.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. If you like the video, hit the like button and subscribe if you're on YouTube. If you're on Podbean or Spotify or something, hit follow. And we will talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.